Hello and welcome to the tutorial for Maritime Simulator. First of all, big thanks for buying the game. Thanks for buying into the idea that we're trying to create here. So we're going to run through just what the game's about and everything that you need to know to get up and running with this game. So it's not an arcade game. It's probably a good idea to point that out. It is a realistic simulator. Okay, so obviously you have your Play Sim option here at the top. You've got settings where you can look at full screen, windowed, your resolution, and you can turn off the background ambient noise if you don't like it. You just have to push save, push close. The tutorial is the button that you push to bring up this video. You can join our Discord through the Discord button. If you find any bugs or if you have any feedback at all, you can push the bugs and feedback button. And of course, the exit button will take you back to the desktop. So we're going to start the game by pressing Play Sim. Now this is your game screen. So this shows you the controlled area of the London Thames that this game focuses on. So it focuses on the far right as far as Erith and Cold Harbour. This comes from the sea. So this comes from the North Sea and the Dover Channel. And to the left you have the direction of central London, and it cuts off at Wapping. So the main aim of this game is to focus on controlling traffic through the Thames Barrier, which is a floodgate in London on the River Thames. So we have, and it's labelled as Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, Foxtrot, Golf, Hotel, and then we don't have an I. There is no I. It just jumps to Juliet and Kilo. Now, Alpha and Bravo and Juliet and Kilo, they're not used because it is far too shallow, the water here, for boats to use that area. So boats will use Charlie, Delta, Echo, Foxtrot and Golf. And they're not called gates, they're called spans. Okay, so you can look up actually the Thames Barrier and how it works and what it's all about. You can look that up on the Port Authority website, and it tells you everything you need to know, including all of the river rules and regulations that ships have to abide by. So some of these gates might be closed, some of these spans might close randomly, some of them might be open but for different directions, and if any of that ever happens, the game will tell you that. So this is our game screen, and you have these red lines here which indicate the barrier notice boards. So in real life there is a notice board at either side on the riverbank saying do not pass this point unless you've spoken to the Coast Guard, and the same here. So if you have not given a ship clearance to pass this line, it will stop. It will just wait, and it will wait until it's received your clearance. So at the top we have the pause and time control buttons, so 1, 5, 10 and 20. This is your difficulty. So we don't have, if you push escape, that will take you back, this will be your pause menu, take you back to main menu, take you back to the desktop. We don't have a difficulty setting in this game, at least not for the moment. And the reason being is because your time control is your difficulty. If you want it to be a bit more of a challenge, stick it on 20 times and try and control it when ships are hurtling through the river, they're coming at you thick and fast. If you want a little bit more of a calm, nice, serene experience with the game, leave it on 1x or on 5x. Okay, so that is your difficulty rating. So on the bottom right you have a radio comms button, and we will be adding more radio communications to this box, but for now there's just the one, and this is a weather and tide broadcast given by the VTS operator, and that is put out on the air for all ships to hear. And you have map filters where you can just completely remove all of the labels and everything. If you know London really well, you don't want the labels, you can turn all of those off, but for now we will leave those on. And down at the bottom in the status bar is your expected arrivals. So When a ship is due to come in, you will see it on the bottom screen. You'll see its name, its vessel type, where it's coming from, so whether it's coming from central London or whether it's coming from Sea Reach, and the rough time that it will be with you. So this time is 16 minutes real time, so that's what it would be if it's on 1x. If you've got it on 20x, it's going to be a lot sooner than 16 minutes. And you have your duty timer ticking away as soon as you enter the game. This will start ticking away and it will let you know how long you've been on duty. So let's put it on 20x and let's start having some ships coming into our game screen. Now, it's a very, very easy game to actually control, so you just need your mouse. There are no buttons to press on the keyboard, it is just a point and click. There are buttons that you can press when ships appear, and we'll show you some of those UI panels as we go along. And there are emergencies to deal with as well. And you are basically in control of coordinating ships, stopping traffic, having traffic resume again, and the Coast Guard will do the rest for you. So you are a Vessel Traffic Services officer, so you are just in control of the flow of traffic. Anything serious will get passed on from yourself to the Coast Guard, and that is what happens in real life. So we have a ship that has come into our game screen. So you can think of this game as very much like air traffic control, but for boats on the River Thames. So you can click on any boat. They will be colour coordinated depending on what type of vessel they are. So this is an unspecified vessel. So this would be for things like lifeboats, Coast Guard, police. They're not specified what they are. So they will be in grey. Now this is Her Majesty's, or His Majesty's Coast Guard Vigilant from the United Kingdom. So it will tell you what flag that ship is flying. It will tell you what span it has been assigned on the Thames Barrier. And at the moment, it hasn't been assigned a span. We haven't given it permission to traverse the barrier. So at the moment, that is none. It will show you its speed, and it will tell you the direction that it's travelling and its current status. So if we told it to stop, you would see the speed go down and then it says stopped. We push resume trip. You can see the speed go back up to the speed it wants to go at, and it goes back to sailing. There will be a lot more communication added between the VTS operator and the ships as we go along through the early access process. So there's a lot that we're going to be adding over the coming months. There is quite a lot on our roadmap that we have planned to bring in to this game. So we will, obviously, when you push stop and when you push resume trip, we're hoping to have a bit of a communication between the boats and obviously the VTS operator. So in blue are the span permission buttons. So you can tell that ship what span to go through. And currently, the game has specified that eastbound ships will use Delta and Echo spans. So we're using Delta and Echo for eastbound traffic. Now you can then deduce that the game has also set that westbound traffic will be using Foxtrot and Golf. Now Charlie isn't being used at the moment, so I don't have a Charlie button. That has probably been set for larger vessels that need a pilot. That's usually what that means if you don't have a Charlie option here. But these will change, not so much at the moment, but as we go along through early access, you'll notice a lot of the controls for the spans will change. So the game will, for example, it will say that Echo span is not available at the moment because there's maintenance going on that particular span. So there's workers there, they've closed the gate and they're working on it and doing some maintenance work. So that will be added into the game in due course. So if we have a look at our ship that has come in, so we'll put it on pause. So we do have some more buttons. So obviously you've seen me use the stop and the resume trip buttons. That will obviously do what it says on the buttons. Emergency button, this ship hasn't called an emergency, so that button is greyed out. But one button that you can use is the infraction button. So if you notice this vessel breaking these rules, you can give it an infraction. So we have a speed limit, so it's currently under the speed limit. So when you are outside of the Thames Barrier control zone, which is in between these two red lines, the speed limit is 8 knots. Everywhere else on the river, before you get to this red line, is 12 knots. And you will have vessels that are just randomly speeding, and you can give it an infraction. So we're just going to say that this vessel has been speeding. Okay, it hasn't, but we're going to give it an infraction for speeding anyway.
This is London, VTS. You are in breach of river regulations. You must now telephone London VTS on +44 2088 550315. Repeat, you are in breach of river regulations. You must now telephone London VTS on +44 2088 550315. London VTS out.
So now that captain has been told you need to ring us, and then we can tell you off. So that will also stay in the infraction history. If this vessel leaves our control zone and comes back later on in our session, you can click on it and you can see that 21:21, which is your local time, you gave it a infraction for speeding. So you know that if that vessel leaves, goes to the sea, comes back later, and it wants to go back in the opposite direction, you'll notice the history. So if we speed up time a little bit, you'll see it starts to make its way to the barrier notice board. Now, it will radio through. If you haven't already given it permission, it will radio through asking for permission to travel the barrier. And it will do that in one moment when it reaches the red line.
London VTS, Captain at Barrier Notice Board requesting permission to transit the barrier. Over.
And now you can click on it and you can set which span it goes through, which part of the gate at the barrier it goes through. So this is where you can be a little bit creative. So if you've already sent a vessel down through span delta, you might want to choose echo because obviously it's an empty span, what with ships wakes and things.
London VTS, Captain at Barrier Notice Board requesting permission to transit the barrier. Over.
And they're all coming in now.
London VTS, Captain at Barrier Notice Board requesting permission to transit the barrier. Over.
There we go. So we've got ships waiting. You know, they are waiting to traverse the barrier. So if you just notice that this one here is a Met Police ship, and it wants to have access to the barrier. And as I stated earlier, so westbound traffic is using Foxtrot and Golf. So you can click one of those buttons to give it permission, and it will then start sailing forward.
This is London VTS. You are clear to use span Foxtrot. Repeat, please use span Foxtrot. London VTS out.
London VTS, Captain at Barrier Notice Board requesting permission to transit the barrier. Over.
And because we've got it on 20 times mode, obviously a lot of ships are coming thick and fast. And this is what I mean. If you want a bit more of a challenging experience, stick it on 20x. You won't be disappointed. If you stick it on 1x, like what it's on now, you can see this is actually the real-time speed of a ship on the Thames. It is very slow. It is a very slow process. So if you want a bit more of a sedentary experience, you can just stick it on 1x and it will be a nice calm shift for you. So we can see 2 more ships have arrived at the barrier notice board. Now these are orange because they are fishing vessels. As you can see, they are fishing vessels and they are wanting permission to go through the barrier. And fishing vessels are normally heading to Canary Wharf Pier, where you'll find Billingsgate Fish Market, for example. So, we're going to give this vessel permission. We're going to tell it to go through span delta.
This is London VTS. You are clear to use span delta. Repeat, please use span delta. London VTS out.
And it will start sailing. We put it on 5x, you'll see it will start sailing, and it will use the part of the the part of the barrier that you've told it to. So, and you can always click on a ship as well and remember what you've given it. So we gave Met Police Foxtrot span, which is this one here, and we've given this one Delta span, which is this one here. Nice and easy, right? Yeah, sure. Until we start throwing emergencies into the mix. Now, emergencies are very intuitive, and they will demand quite a lot of your attention. But just quickly, when ships enter the Thames Barrier Zone, which is this square, you notice that suddenly the assigned span buttons go red. They cannot be changed anymore. That is because once a ship is lining its way up for a span, you don't want it to change at the last minute. That's where accidents will happen. That's where problems will occur. So you need to make sure that before the ship passes the red line at either end of the barrier zone, so once it enters this square, you need to ensure that you've got it going for its correct span. And if you haven't, it's too late. You can't change it. It is too late now to change it, because it will ruin what the captains have got in mind for their approach to the barrier, and it can cause problems. It can cause accidents. But as you can see, they are going through their assigned spans. And there they go. Now, they will just continue onwards now. They don't need anything more from us. Now, before we move on to emergencies, we are just waiting for an emergency to pop up. They pop up randomly, and they will completely throw you, but we'll cover that when one pops up. I just want to look at these white vessels here, and you'll find some of them parked. They're docked at piers all the way along. So you've got one at Greenwich Pier, which is where the Cutty Sark is. You've got one at North Greenwich Pier, one at the Woolwich Ferry Pier, and one at the Arsenal Ferry Pier. Now, you need to give these permission to leave the pier. These are Uber ferries. So they're part of the Uber company, and these are taxis but for the river. They are a real life service, and you need to give them permission to travel on their journey. So we will be adding, in the very next update that gets issued, we will be adding a voice for these ferries where they will radio through when they're ready to leave. But for now, you just need to select them and push start trip. And that will now start travelling. Now, this is the Woolwich Ferry. So this is a car ferry that lets people go to the north side of the river, whereas the others are passenger ferries. So this one needs to go through the Thames Barrier, the Arsenal Ferry Pier. It goes to North Greenwich Pier, and it needs to go through the barrier. So you need to tell it what span to use. So we're going to send it through span Foxtrot, and we're going to send it on its way. Start trip. It's the same with this one, but because this one is going to the Cutty Sark, it's not going anywhere near the Thames Barrier. You can just push start trip, and it's the same for the Cutty Sark. This is going to central London, so you can just push start trip, and it will go on its way. The only Uber ferry that uses a span is the Arsenal Ferry. And you will need to do the same when it gets to North Greenwich Pier. It will go to a status of disembarking, and then back to embarking when it's ready to leave. You can tell it what span to use and push start trip. And again, the stop and the resume trip buttons work as you would expect them to. They will stop the Uber ferries like so, and it goes to idle, and you can just resume the trip again. stopping a ship is useful if there is a choke point going on, if there's a bit of a blockage further down the river. You can start to actually start to stop the ships from travelling a bit further down and adding to a queue. So we do just need an emergency to pop up. So there is actually something we can show you here with this green ship. So if we send these on their way.
You are clear to use span Foxtrot. Repeat, please use span Foxtrot. London VTS out.
London VTS. I am awaiting a barrier notice board and am requesting a permission to transit the barrier. Over.
This is London VTS. You are clear to use span Golf. Repeat, please use span Golf. London VTS out.
So we've moved those two out of the way, and we'll put it on 20 times. Now, this vessel is from Malta, and it is a cargo vessel. So cargo vessels are in green, and tankers, oil tankers, petrol tankers, they're in red. So you need to be on the lookout for green and red, because they cannot go through the Thames barrier on their own. They need to have a pilot. So when it gets to the barrier notice board, you give it instructions that it needs a pilot, and it's to pull over and receive a Port of London Authority pilot, who will then get on board. They will help the captain steer through the Thames barrier, and then they'll get off the ship and hand control back over to the captain.
This is London VTS. You are in need of a pilot to traverse the barrier due to your vessel size. Please anchor in the pilot stand, and a pilot tugboat will be with you shortly. Please do not traverse the Thames barrier until your pilot has taken command of your vessel. London VTS out.
London Coast Guard, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. We need urgent assistance for a passenger having a heart attack. Our location is latitude 51.503258. Longitude 0.080992. We are starting CPR on the passenger and need medical assistance urgently. Over.
And there we go. There is an emergency happening right now. So that is a passenger having a heart attack. So you can click on the vessel. It will show you all of the information that we've already discussed, and the emergency button is available to push. So they have actually called a mayday, and we need to push the medical button, and then you'll hear a whole load of stuff going off between a lifeboat and the Coast Guard, and they will liaise with each other. They will get a lifeboat to that situation, and they will deal with that emergency. And then once that emergency has been dealt with, that ship is free to go back on their journey, and they will continue on their journey. So we're going to select the medical button.
Break. This is the London Coast Guard on Channel 14. Mayday call received. Power down your engine and await the Thames Coast Guard's attendance. Please switch to Marine Channel 16, which is on 156.8 MHz. You must also state number of souls on board. Please go ahead and sound 7 short blasts, followed by 1 prolonged blast on the ship's whistle. London Coast Guard, out. Calling RNLI. This is London Coast Guard, Channel 14. Can I confirm you are scrambling to that last call? Over.
This is RNLI calling London Coast Guard Channel 14. Yes, affirmative. We are en route, Category 1. Incident CAD number to follow. Over.
London Coast Guard, that is all received. Please inform Channel 16 when you are on scene. We are just arranging for a heli-med response. London Ambulance Service will be coordinating to find out your destination pier with the patient. Over.
RNLI, that's all received, Coast Guard. We will update you on Channel 16 with our exit pier so that LAS can meet with us. Please go ahead and arrange heli-med response due to this being a Category 1. Over.
London Coast Guard, that is all received. Thank you, RNLI. We'll resume these comms on Channel 16, releasing Channel 14 back to VTS normal traffic. London Coast Guard, out.
So, as you heard, that's the London Coast Guard and the London lifeboats just coordinating a rescue effort. And as you can see, we've actually got two unspecified vessels coming in. One of them is the
London
pilot tug.
VTS, you are in breach of river regulations. You must now telephone London VTS on +44 2088 550315. Repeat, you are in breach of river regulations. You must now telephone London VTS on +44 2088 550315. London VTS out.
Someone's in trouble. So there is a pilot tug, which is pilot tug number 999, and it's unspecified, travelling at 7 knots. That is going to assist the green vessel that we called for earlier on. So that has a pilot on board. They will meet up a bit further down the river at this red stop point here, and the pilot will move over to the green ship and help the green ship with steering. Now, we've also got the RNLI Gravesend rib. So this is an inflatable rib, and it will be coming down the river to assist with this heart attack emergency. And that is pretty much it. That is the game. You're going to have a lot of stuff coming up. You're going to have a lot of stuff going on the screen. If it's getting a little bit too difficult, stuff is happening too quickly, put it down to 1x or 5x. If things are a little bit slow for you, put it up to 20x if you want a bit more of a challenge. And good luck. That's all I can say. So this is Maritime Sim. This is the basics. Everything else you'll learn as you go. So yeah, enjoy the game and do let us know if you have any feedback.